What's up, everybody? All right. Get this thing all set up here on my phone. Get all my things set up. Oop, what's going on here? There we go. Sorry. What's up, everybody? Happy hump day to all of you. Just up adjusted a little bit. What's up, guys? Don't worry. Uncle Charlie is going to be on. He got off work a little late and he is on his way home. He should be home already. He'll be jumping on very shortly. Tonight we have Dr. Kapono Chong-Hanssen. Talk story a little bit. You guys saw the post last night, guys. We're going back to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think the last show, when it boiled down to a mochi crunch eating contest, uh, I think that drew the line. It's like Charlie, we ran out of things to say. So anyway, guys, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Of course, unless something pops up, we get something important we got to talk about. We'll definitely jump on. But for right now, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I do want to bring back good feel good Fridays and bring on some good stories, some positive stories, some small business stories, things like that. We got away from that, and I think that that was a real good part of the show. So that's kind of the plan right now. Of course, as you know, as things change, we change. So I hope you guys appreciate that. We just wanna make it enjoyable, guys. We wanna make sure we provide good content. Again, when we came down to the mochi crunch eating contest, that's stretching it, guys. That is stretching it. So we are Baroni Tagalogi. He's on YouTube watching quality over quantity. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I know you guys on Facebook cannot see the YouTube comments, but I can jump them on there real quick. And that's really what the bottom line is. That's what it comes down to, quality over quantity. Hope we got more info on the COVID pills. That we're going to ask the doctor that question. We got a lot of things to ask the doctor tonight. It's been a while since we've had him on, and I kind of want to touch on Keiki vaccines, Kauai's numbers out of control again, clusters, church clusters, and then you get churches, responsible church. And don't get me wrong, I'm just calling it as I see them. Trying to dispute it. Listen, guys, this is how we determine a cluster. If you 10 people test positive and 10 people were at the same event, that's a cluster. And so Friday Zumba, yeah, we can have a Friday Zumba show. If you find me a Zumba instructor that has a setup that can do it, I'll put it on. I'll put it on. Laurel is saying only 4 ICU beds available. I believe we have 12 people in the hospital here on Kauai. I know personally a couple of them not doing very well, and obviously won't mention names. I think a lot of you know who they are because we've seen the prayer circles on Facebook. But yeah, I ask all of you, send out prayers, please. They need it. They're not in good shape. Ventilators, which isn't a good sign. And that's why I get infuriated when people try to tell me that this is just a minor virus, that this isn't real, that it just bothers me because I've seen too much, I've heard too much, and we'll talk to Dr. Capono about some of the misinformation that's floating around. I honestly just tired of debating with people already because and I said it on the show our last show, that if I found out that this was a huge conspiracy, if people could prove to me that this was a conspiracy, a political conspiracy, I would be the first one to throw the U-turn and let everybody know how we felt and why uh, we would continue to inform the public of what we believe is accurate. But I hear a lot of allegations, accusations, and but no proof. The Google University, the College of YouTube, That's not reliable sources, guys, and I hate repeating myself, but that's actually what this has become. So those that are not willing to listen to all sides, I have absolutely no interest in talking to. But trust me, I have, and it's not as much today as it used to be, but I still get inquiries from friends, acquaintances asking me what I think, what I believe, and when I share with them the facts, the data, the statistics, the science, they're willing to digest it. I actually enjoy those conversations, but some of them question everything that we bring up, every single topic. Oh yeah, but I know somebody that everybody in their family had died of COVID or vaccinated, or all they get sick from the vaccination. And everybody, in police work, we me and my friend joke around all the time. We want to meet that person named somebody. If we could find that somebody, when we talk to witnesses or suspects, and that's always the person that comes out of their mind or their mouth. Oh, somebody said this, somebody saw that, somebody. Well, we want to find this somebody. It's a pretty popular person. So yeah, those that wanna have a debate or a discussion, like, I gotta tell you, I enjoyed the discussion we had with Veronica from Florida the other day. It was very civil, and we were able to maintain a discussion, and that's exactly what I enjoy doing. But there's people that I just choose not to talk to anymore about COVID because they just do not want to have a discussion. There he is. Aloha, no brother Charlie.
Hello, hello everyone. How you guys doing? How you guys doing?
We
Whew.
just wrapped it up, bro. We went on early tonight. I went on at 6, so we're just about wrapping
Oh,
up. You have
okay.
your closing thoughts for today, Charlie?
Yeah. Thank you for not letting me know. Then I would have drove 50 miles an hour instead of 90.
What's up, my man? Nice to see you, bro.
Whew. Yeah. Was eventful day. Things are shaping up. I got this really pressing question, and I was hoping to ask the doctor, but I'll ask you. With no enforcement whatsoever, right? And all of these things that we have to do, if you don't have enough bite in what you release, then why release it at all? Why don't we start promoting safety, safety, safety? Because these guys like do everything, but they just don't have the enforcement out there.
Yeah.
You know, just doing it cannot. That alone cannot. Cannot. I don't think it can be handled because I'm looking
Well,
at certain things. And that's why I asked the question.
think of it this way, Charlie. Think of it this way. Imagine watching a football game
Hmm.
with no referees. Plenty rules. Plenty rules. You think that the people are not going to hold? You think that the people are not going to blindside block? You think the people are not going to jump off sides? You think? Listen, that's I think the perfect analogy is, while everybody on the both sides of that ball are well-meaning, well-intentioned people, if no more the enforcement mechanism, if no more the eyeballs watching, they're gonna get away with what they can, and the result. Look at the hospitalizations on Kauai. Look at the cases on Kauai. You know.
Well, I'm just thinking from a standpoint that a lot of people get frustrated. You can hear them in their voices because they'll say stuff like, "Oh, why doing for if nothing gonna happen?" A lot of people that I see that come back, they say, we try meet the deadlines, we try get tested before we come back into the state, that kind of stuff. And yet these other guys just take you on free ride, and oh no, we hear it every day now, and it's
Yeah.
and I thought things would slow down, but things are busier than ever. Exact example, Lihui Airport. Lihui has 4 lanes. One lane is pretty much blocked off, the Mocha lane, because like government, like TSA, they park in that lane. But the other 3 lanes is wide open. You get bumper to bumper coming through three lanes. You swear, if I only took a shot of those three lanes, you would think that that's one of the highways in California. So many cars. I mean, it's
Yeah,
crazy. And I, wow,
yeah,
wow,
yeah. And it's just it's only going to get worse. I mean, it's going to get because of the restrictions being lifted, because of we've heard it, the cold weather on the mainland,
hmm,
the European travelers who are trying to escape a very dangerous country right now,
right,
Austria, Germany, Russia. They're not going to be able to handle their hospitalizations and their deaths very shortly. It's and that's again, Charlie. Before you came on, I was saying, I'm just so irritated and tired already of people who continue to profess that this is just a minor flu and that we need to open up, and that
right.
very small, high survivability rate, low mortality rate. I'm thinking, guys. Sorry, I just said, I mean, let's just be real. Naomi, those of us in the village who have been with you and Charlie all these months will continue to support you because you support us. No, come. Oh, sorry, I just catch my eye because it stopped flashing.
Hmm.
You come on night after night after, okay, like I said before there. Oh, yeah. All right. Thank you, Naomi. Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, the village is where it's at, guys. The
Yeah,
village is where it's at. I you know, like I said, sometimes it's a chore. You tired. You're driving home and it's like, I gotta go set up for the show. But once we get on the show, I have a good time. And then once we end the show, Charlie, I feel real good because we had a great discussion and we were part of the village. It's like when luau, when you after you see old friends and family at one luau, you feel good and that's kind of how it is every night. So yeah, guys, we appreciate this and
yeah. I'd like to also, if this person doesn't mind, before we talk with our guest. She's on right now. Her name is Janelle, and I didn't know Elders, and I did not know. And again, condolences goes out to her and her family. I understand their frustration, and I would too. For those of you that don't know, I just saw it in Facebook. Her son was the one that was murdered by the federal agent, the McDonald's in Honolulu a couple years back. The Didi trial. You remember the State Department agent that shot that individual. So
Mhm.
again, my aloha goes out to her. I mean, I did not know, and I feel for her and the rest of her ohana because it's an understanding that the prosecutor's office has decided not to go forward with that trying to retry the case. So, and I hope and pray that by me saying this, I don't mean in any disrespect, but I just want to send out my aloha to you, Janelle, and to the rest of your family. It's a tough journey, and I hope and pray over time things will heal, but it's in the hands of the Lord now, and you know that's all I can say. So thank you for letting me share that.
Thanks, Charlie, for bringing that up. Yeah, I was shocked when I found out that one of our village members, very close to home, and
Mhm.
a very frustrating turn of events. So, for the villagers, please send out your prayers to Janelle Elders and the entire Ohana for peace and for healing. I honestly cannot imagine what you folks have been through and what continues. So, God bless you and your Ohana.
Yes,
Oh God, heartbreaking. Dr. Kapono.
but then we got that good-looking doctor right there.
Yeah,
We are
thank
so
God.
happy he is with us, and
I think Charlie, we grow on our villagers. You and I, we grow on them, and then all of a sudden, then here comes the handsome looking doctor, and all of a sudden they look at who's that two old bags over there. Can you put the big screen on Dr. Capono, please? And yeah, we can do that. We can do that. All right, there we go. There we go. All
there he is.
right, there you.
But
What's
Well,
up,
aloha,
Doc?
aloha. Thanks for
I,
having me again. I hope
I would
everything's
like to
connected
say,
okay.
I would like to say that I've heard over and over again, and I just get tickled pink when I hear of individuals how much they compliment you and your entire staff at the whole Lahui. And I am I'm very honored to know you, Doc, because you've usually people are afraid of doctors, but you got a lot of followers that just enjoy going and seeing you and the rest of your staff because the way you treat them. You treat your patients like family, and I hear it day in and day out for the people on the west side. I hear it, and like I said, I'm so tickled pink that I know you. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm honored to hear that feedback. There's a medical term called a patient-centered medical home. I mean, that actually has some strict definitions to it, but I think the idea of a medical home is something to embrace, and I hope that we've really achieved that. I do feel like we do a pretty good job making people feel comfortable coming into our clinic,
Mhm.
and yeah, that it is their medical home. And it's certainly not all me, so I have to compliment my staff. We have a lot of nurses and medical assistants that they really outperform their pay grade, for one, but they just go, they just kind of know the little things to do with our community to keep the relationship going. And really, I want to show my appreciation to our vaccination teams that have essentially been working every Saturday since, gosh, when did we start? I think February. Offering vaccinations, and
Mhm.
I think I'm actually wearing them out, but they keep going. Each time there's a new, the boosters came out, and now we have pediatric vaccines, so they keep going because we know how important this effort is.
I have visited a couple of your vaccine clinics on Saturdays, and I got to tell you, man, your staff is phenomenal. They're happy, which is a good thing. And if they're there to help, and I can see the satisfaction on their faces. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I don't think we appreciate, like you said, they've been doing this every Saturday. They've been doing this in addition to what they normally do throughout the week. So definitely some kudos out to you and your entire staff. I wanted to take just a couple minutes before we get into tonight's discussion because a year ago, Charlie, we had Mason, Councilmember Mason Chalk and Pekele. What was Pekele's last name? Hang on, I have it over here on my notes. Pekele.
You got that call to Mel today?
Yes, and that's what I'm. Oh, Flores,
Very.
Michele Flores from
Yes.
Malama Hulia. So
Oh yeah.
about a year ago, we had the Minihuni fish pond was going to go up for sale, or it was up for sale. The landowner had said, we're listing this property to the world, and Malama Hulia and some other organizations jumped into action, and we brought on uh, Pekela and Mason to share what their dream was. Their dream was to secure some funding so we could actually so the community could purchase this 102-acre parcel, which we all know as Menehune Fish Pond, which the term there the correct name is Alacoco Fish Pond. And for many of us that were born and raised here, my grandfather was a president of the canoe club down in at Huliia, and we chose our that was our playground, that was our backyard. And when I found out that it was for sale, I wanted to buy it. I asked Charlie to borrow the $4 million, and he was a little bit short. So anyway, we had put a lot of faith,
And
but
not in height either.
we put it out to the village. We put it out to the village to send emails and letters. And anyway, so today, long story short, I got a call from the Malama Huli'ia's president, Jan Timbrugenkate. He so nice of him to call Charlie, and he called myself to thank us and to thank our viewers for submitting so many letters and emails of support. The deal closed today, and the Trust for Public Land and Malama Huli'ia successfully purchased and now have protected the Alacoco fish pond into perpetuity for generations to come. So I want to say thank you all. I have the press release right here. I just want to go real quick and just Reina Ramolete Hayashi, she was the project manager for the Trust for Public Land. It would never have happened without them. Also, the Hawaii Community Foundation, which we've had on our show. Sarah Bowen, executive director of Malama Huli'ia. Mason Chalk, he's a council member. He's a volunteer for Malama Huli'ia, but he was a president. He was the chairman at the time of Malama Huli'ia. But because they were going after possibly some federal, I mean, some government funding, he stepped down as the president to avoid the conflict. But he was the one that started the Malama Huli'ia program or the project. Of course, Peleke, not Pekele, Peleke Flores. He's a director of operations at Malamuhuli and I already mentioned Janton Kate of Malamuhuli. And this is the part that I was so happy to hear because lately I've been hearing a lot of crap about the Zuckerbergs that they've donated pennies and pennies. The Chan Zuckerberg Foundation, which is Zuckerberg and his wife Chan, who I had a lovely honor and pleasure to meet in person. Chan is a practicing pediatrician as well, the wife. They paid for the whole bill. They donated the entire purchase price and then some. They did it without even seeing the property in person. But I wanted to read Chan's comment because I think it's appropriate if I can find it over here. So sorry, I should have been more organized. Um, She said, Kauai means so much to our family, and we're humbled to be a part of efforts to protect and preserve Alacoco Fish Pond. We're happy that Alacoco will continue to be a place for education, community gathering, environmental restoration, and cherished cultural traditions. That is what Chan Zuckerberg said. And there's a lot of other quotes, and I'm trying to get them to be on our show. But I'm going to read this. And this is my last comment. It was from a sixth grader, a sixth grade student on Kauai. Alacoco is an important place for native Hawaiians. Our ancestors cared for this place, and in return, they were cared for by this place. This place fed our ancestors, and if we continue to care for it, it will feed future generations. We need to take action and care for this place. If we don't, we lose our native fish, our native plants, and our traditions. The fish pond gives us intelligence. This is our land, our sacred place, our roots, and we need to care for Alacoco. So that's a sixth grader who has spent some time down at the fish pond. I tell you, I would read more, but I would get emotional because I honestly, Charlie, I didn't think they would be able to pull it off. And the Hawaii Community Foundation, which is the agency that manages the Zuckerberg Foundation, it's these organizations that allow us to continue our culture. And this is a huge score for the people of Kauai, for the people of Hawaii, actually. So I just wanted to say thank you, villagers, for participating, sending those letters, those emails, and to the Zuckerberg Foundation and all of you that were involved, all the volunteers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is a gem that has been preserved today for forever. So right on. And I know, Doc, that probably touches a little spot for both of you, Native Hawaiians. I'm sure you guys appreciate that quite a bit.
Oh yeah, you brought it up. I just saw it today.
Oh, we're losing
I'm
the.
community. Mason Chalk too. Recently was down there. They invited me down there with Wilcox for some pre-med students. And to Wilcox, I think it's a great experience to show med students a place like that and what it means to the community. And then asked me to come down and talk about experience in medicine.
Hey, Doc, I don't know if you can hear me, but we're losing you. I think your Wi-Fi signal is falling off. So you're breaking up. Sorry, Doc. You might have to get out and come back in. You might have to get out and come back in. I know somebody just asked if does that mean that the Zuckerbergs have ownership? Absolutely not. That no strings attached. There is absolutely that was a donation to the project. No strings attached. Zero. So they have absolutely no claim. Nothing. It was a donation that I thank them tremendously for. So anyway, apologize for that. The Wi-Fi sometimes is just bad. Here he is. Hopefully he's there we go.
Okay, any
Well,
better? I tried
welcome back.
switching off my Wi-Fi. Um, so you
You're
probably
good
didn't
there,
hear
bro.
any of that, but I just wanted to say I'm really stoked that you mentioned that. I'm so happy for Malama and proud of them for the work they did. Paleke, I think, he's just been a great leader for the Hawaiian community. Um, and I was mentioning that Wilcox invited me down there to speak to some pre-med students a couple months back with Paleke. So I mean, it's just a really meaningful spot there. It's one of those spots where you can just feel the mana, and I'm super happy for them, and I'm relieved that it didn't go another direction. And the Zuckerbergs, I don't know how much is appropriate for billionaires to to donate to communities, but they do support Ho'ola as well. I mean, I think they at least deserve some recognition for coming through for these kind of things. And a friend of mine from growing up works for Facebook and has some experience with them, and I just remember kind of laughing from the human side. I guess he said that when the whole thing went down with the Kuleana land and stuff like that, that um, Priscilla, right, Dr. Chan, and that she was telling Mark, "What are you doing? Kauai's gonna hate us. It's like our favorite place on the earth, and now you're gonna blow it." Like that kind of thing. So I kind of heard that side from behind the scenes. So I appreciate they're at least trying to do some really meaningful things, and I think picking up on the meaning of this spot in particular is just awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, they also donated the three mobile vans for the county to do the testing and the vaccinations. I mean, a lot of what they do go anonymous. No, and that's how that's how it's set up. And yeah, whether you like or disagree with Facebook or not, the fact of the matter is they are Kauai residents, and at least they are doing. And I will say this, and this is something that I know personally, is that their foundation is constantly looking for recipients of grants and donations. And I notice I cannot say much about it other than I know that it exists, that I've participated in them, and so yes, they are good neighbors, and I hope that the people can see the good out of these. That was huge. What happened today? That was major. What just happened today for the native Hawaiians and the non-native Hawaiians like myself, who look at that place as a spiritual place that could have fallen into the hands of a rich absentee owner to build one mega mansion and have a paradise, a playground to himself. So anyway, that's enough, man. Let's get on. Charlie, what are your thoughts, Charlie, about that? I know you
Real
were.
quickly, I do want to say that I have many friends who are not Hawaiian by blood, but boy, they still and they show a very infinite love for Hawaii, and they're Hawaiians at heart, and so I think they got to be recognized too, because they add that in the weave. The way I look at it, they sort of add that extra strength, because sometimes the battle, we got to learn how to pace ourselves, and sometimes you got to look for. They say you got to look for new blood, and then lo and behold, got these people that they come up to you and they give you all the love and kindness, and you find out that they're not Hawaiian by blood at all, but yet they have the love for Hawaii, and they come from places where they've seen how devastating changes can be, and all we're asking for is a little slice of paradise to remain to remain what it was way back when. And the sad thing about it, being a Kamehameha grad, I had many years that I could have taken advantage and get more into it, but my mind was thinking elsewhere. And I'm in my 60s now, and I'm now diving into it. But like the wife said, it's never too late. You just gotta keep at it. So that's why I kind of pick up when I hear Dr. Kapono talk about certain things. It intrigues me. So like when he was talking about his genealogy, I started to look at some of the old Hawaiian pictures and try to match up how things have evolved, and I find it very very interesting. So I think I may go do that because I follow my genealogy now, and I mean I didn't know I was related to Al Capone. You know, so anyway,
So Doc, let's get right into it. How's it going? I mean, we haven't had you on for a little while. KQ vaccines now going out in full strength. What's it like? Are we seeing a lot of participation? Are we seeing some hesitancy? What's the overview, sir?
It's really early on. I think it's hard to make a judgment about how much hesitancy. We're doing the vaccines and we're doing smaller numbers. We're really trying to reach the populations that have more difficulty with access. From what I gathered from my colleagues at KVMH, Wilcox, I know we're in the several hundreds now, probably around 200 to 300 children in the 5 to 11 age group have been vaccinated. Our clinics, we've done 30 so far, so relatively small. I believe it's something around 6,000 children on Kauai in that age group. And I understand that they did some assessments of what parents felt they would do when the vaccine was approved. And about a third of parents were eager to get the vaccine. About a third said they would wait and see. And about a third said that they were reluctant or probably unlikely to get the vaccine. This is not Kauai specific, but overall. So that's what we've seen so far. The people that I've had contact with thus far were more of the eager people that wanted to get their child vaccinated. A lot of them are traveling over the holidays and really wanted to have that reassurance of that protection over the holidays, which, I can certainly sympathize with that. My son is under the age of 5, and, part of me wishes that he had a vaccine approved for him too, because it's just such a precarious thing to think about traveling while the adults are vaccinated and then potentially putting, your young child at risk. So those are the people I've come into contact with. Some of them have expressed some reluctance to get the second dose 3 weeks later, which is the routine. And so I've talked to them about that, those feelings. And I think you have to weigh that reluctance against the risk of being not fully vaccinated through the holiday season with all the travel that we're probably going to see, or the families that might be traveling elsewhere. So it's rolling out relatively slowly, but we're really ramping up the opportunities for those vaccines on Kauai right now. So, there's a lot of them out there. I can go through them now or later in the show if you want to. But that's kind of how it's going.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, let's do it. Also, just overall, I know our numbers on Kauai is high again. Hospitalizations are high. Before you all came on, I talked about some personal friends that are on ventilators now here on Kauai. So it's we're not in a good place. I mean, yeah, 11 or 12 hospitalizations. When other people from other areas look at that, they say, "You guys lucky it's so low," but small community, everybody, it's impacting. So, what are your thoughts on the numbers? I know we had the cluster, but overall, our numbers are it doesn't seem to be going down.
Yeah, we're the highest per capita in the state right now, and so I think we just need to own that. And unfortunately, we've really started to fall behind, and we're not far behind, but we're falling behind on vaccinations as well. Oahu basically skyrocketed ahead on vaccinations. And based on the timing, I think a lot of that had to do with employer mandates and then the requirements for restaurants, bars, and gatherings on Oahu. So, I was really proud about how we rolled out the vaccine in the beginning, and now we're just kind of lagging behind. And, that's part of our kuleana to try to catch up with that. Whether it's boosters or pediatric vaccines, that's what we want to do. I think most people have heard now about the cluster that sounds like it's really fueling the number of cases that we're seeing right now. and it's coming out of a place of worship in LA and this trunk or treat event, but maybe there are some other events related to it too. On the positive side, I do think that we continue to do the best job at contact tracing. So I think we're probably catching more cases than other places in Hawaii. But yeah, that's the important thing. We have the highest per capita rate. I guess maybe before we talk about the pediatric vaccinations, we should talk about why they are more important now after the Delta variant. The Delta variant increased hospitalizations by 5 times in this age group. So it really started affecting children more than the previous variants of COVID and the wild type, I guess we call the original COVID. So Kaiser Family Foundation ranked COVID as the 6th leading cause of death of children in this age group. Some other sources estimated it more around the 8th leading cause of death. And I was curious, well, what are those other causes? So I looked it up, and the other cause of death in this age group is accidents, cancer, congenital genetic issues, homicide, heart and lung disease, pneumonia. And when you think about those problems, I think maybe it would be helpful to think, like, what if you could give 2 injections to a child that would make them 90% protected against car accidents, or 90% protected against cancer, or 90% protected against any kind of pneumonia. I mean, that sounds like a no-brainer to me. I mean, or even homicide. We've heard. I know in the news there's been that heartbreaking story, or whatever happened with that child in Waimanalo and the foster parents. It's heartbreaking. But imagine if you could vaccinate people against that. And I think that's a lot of the ways that we look at it. Like, yeah, it sounds like low risk, especially compared to the elderly people. But when you have a vaccine that can protect against a cause of death that is leading, starting to climb up the ladder in that age group, then it starts to become clear about why it's a good decision to try to get more children vaccinated.
Good point. Good point. Yeah, yeah. It's still. I mean, the hesitancy is still there. I mean, I still know people that are not going to get them, and it's kind of like Russian roulette, though. You hope that that bullet isn't in the chamber. You hope that that you're going to get past um, this virus. But the longer it takes, the more and more people will get infected, and it's just a matter of time, whether you vaccinated or not, that you will get COVID. And wouldn't you rather be protected? Wouldn't you want to increase your odds of surviving? I think, and that's hard for us to understand why people wouldn't do that. But it is. It's welcome to America, and people have a choice.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too. I mean, I think it's becoming more and more obvious that you're either going to get vaccinated or you're going to get COVID, or both. But regardless, you'd prefer to be vaccinated before you are exposed to COVID. And essentially, any risk that people are talking about from the vaccines, especially in this age group, is much lower than the risk of complications from COVID. And when they did the trial for this, there were no severe adverse reactions. There were no cases of myocarditis, that heart inflammation that we're a little bit more concerned about in that older age group, more the teenagers into young adults, particularly with males. There were no cases of that. I think most people think there probably will be. When we vaccinate millions of children, there probably will be a few. One of the reassuring things to me was that when I read a little bit more about it, that condition tends to peak at infancy and then again in adolescence. So it's more like a puberty and after puberty problem. So we're not anticipating that being a big issue. But then you compare that with the MISC, that's the multi-inflammatory syndrome, which can include myocarditis, which is a complication of COVID. And the chances of that happening, from COVID is so much higher, and the risks are so much higher. Myocarditis from COVID is much more likely to be dangerous and cause long-term effects, whereas the cases for myocarditis with the vaccine have been mild, hospitalized for a short period of time, take anti-inflammatories, and no long-term effects as far as we can see. So those are the biggest reasons. Protect the child, and now the evidence is pretty clear, that the risks from COVID are higher than the vaccine. And then, of course, we go back to protecting the community and other people that are at higher risk. Um, I think because I've been in the public eye and spoken up about vaccines more, I get the benefit of getting videos from my friends of their children reacting to getting the vaccine or whatever has happened, and it's heartwarming to see. But a lot of them are, they're getting the vaccine and they're saying, "I love you, Grandma. I did it for you." Like they're talking about their grandparents, and they're so proud about being able to, do that and do something for safety for the people that they love. So that's great to see.
Wow.
Doc, here's a question. I think it's what if a child had COVID asymmetric and gets vaccinated? Does it make a difference? My question: should the child get tested for COVID prior to getting vaccinated?
So across the board, there's a recommendation for even if you had COVID to get vaccinated. Um, the long story short with that is you should wait until you're out of isolation, cleared from COVID, to get the vaccine. To answer the question about the testing for COVID, not necessarily, because you can test COVID positive for COVID for a long time after you've essentially cleared the virus or the viral load is so low that it's not transmissible. So I don't think necessarily need to test, but you know, please don't bring your child who's diagnosed with COVID to a vaccination clinic for children if they've not been cleared from isolation, because that's the risk of transmitting the virus. So that's the quick answer. I don't think it would be unreasonable to wait to test negative, if you want to be extra cautious, but it's probably not necessary to wait that long for a negative test. I wanted to comment a little bit about, a lot of this controversy has to do with the viewpoint of whether natural immunity, meaning the immunity gained from a COVID infection, is better or longer lasting than vaccination immunity, because there's been some evidence out of Israel that natural immunity could be as effective or more effective. The bottom line from all the evidence that I've reviewed is that it's just variable. You could have from an infection, one person could have longer lasting immunity than a vaccine. Another person could have much shorter lasting immunity. So that's an issue. And one of the other criticisms I read about that study was that there's also a bias there, that you're only going to be able to test the people that survived COVID. So you're eliminating these people that, had, either died or they had severe reactions to COVID, and maybe they're not, in any shape to be tested later. So that's kind of the breakdown about natural infection versus vaccine immunity. We just know more about the reliability of vaccine immunity, but I'll admit we're learning more as we go. The evidence always, is coming in, um, from different sources, and that's why the booster recommendations evolve, and it probably will continue to evolve.
Some of the comments that I hear, even in the workplace, I sympathize because there is this stigma that's created through confusion. So what I notice is that people from certain ethnic races, right, ethnicities, will tend to stay with their own when it comes critical in decision making. Like example, like Filipinos. Okay, when they start to get confused because they hear so many things, they'll gravitate towards their own and they'll stay in that lane. They won't go outside of that. And I appreciate that because that's their comfort level. And if anything, I want them to be comfortable. I don't want them to uh, you know, be uncomfortable and try to cope with this thing day in and day out because number one, it can get very depressing over time. Number two, you possibly could lose everything because you'll just start taking chances that if somebody could tell you, hey, slow down, you don't have to go that route. So I think what the point I'm trying to get at is that I see this many times over again. And so my question to you, Doc, is when can we expect the government to come up with a consensus of giving one type of message? Because there doesn't seem to be any. It seems confusing from the CDC level, the White House level, and every single level in between. And yet we we want to follow the right guidance, but some of it starts. And like a lot of the people from just watching this show, that's why they listen to you. That's why they listen to Scott or Kohimanu or even Dr. Kim. It's because it's not confusing what you folks are saying. Government wise, and even our own administration, state administration, you have one leader at the top that has his own perspective, then you have the one right below him that's giving a totally different message. So there's no unified message going out. So again, it creates this uncertainty, and I think it's just getting worse and worse and worse. Do you agree with that?
I pretty much. I mean, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for you about when will it get better. I mean, I think we've had our elections. We have the elected officials that we have, and in the future maybe we can elect some different people that will behave differently, but that's what we're dealt with. And and you can compare to other countries with how their leadership makes decisions and how they represent themselves. I look a lot to Aotearoa, New Zealand, and think about the good and the bad. They're having challenges now with their vaccine rollout, but I think there's a lot of similarities. So I like looking to them. I'm not sure what to say to you guys. I think somewhat it's helpful if people can understand where people's priorities are. So the CDC, generally, I trust them. Generally, I think their their recommendations are well based in science. But, we've talked before that they also kind of get pulled into political decisions. And I think that's where they've gotten into some shaky ground about making recommendations as far as masking and, vaccines and vaccine passport type ideas. But, they get political pressure too. And unfortunately, right now, the vaccines and this pandemic is extremely politically charged. And so we're stuck in the middle. I mean, all I can really say is that people, they listen to who they trust. I certainly hope that a lot of people in this community feel like I'm a trusted source, or at least, that I'll be honest and open about, what I think about things. The example with the Filipino community, I think, there's Dr. Moana, is actually Moanya, who works for us. I think that he's a leader in his community. There's Dr. Torres, who used to work for us. He was a longtime West Side doctor. So I think every group has a trusted person that they tend to listen to more, and that's a good source of information. I agree with your criticism. I wish we were more on the same page, but that's just kind of how government works. I mean, you have the Department of Health, you have HIEMA too, and then you got the federal guys at each level that are also making decisions, and they all have slightly different priorities. I mean, I generally am more aligned with the Department of Health in Hawaii because, I think that their viewpoints and their perspective on how on the pandemic is more medicine based rather than political based. But that's kind of a political office too. That they work for the governor essentially. So they have to pick and choose what they say. And I'm not sure what else to say about it. I just think it's good to have forums like this where people can listen to what we're saying. But Mel and I were talking about misinformation earlier, and it's difficult to spot when a source is not trustworthy if you don't have any personal connection. So I think that's where having some kind of personal connection with a doctor in your community or a trusted person in your community helps people to navigate this landscape that is just kind of difficult.
Okay.
Hey Doc, we'll talk about the misinformation in a bit. I just want to get to a couple of these questions real quick from Richard Kim. Perhaps how about we do titer? If the child has enough natural immunity, then perhaps the child may not need a vaccination. I know we had that discussion with Dr. Miskovich.
Mm.
The titer test or whatever it's called, titer,
Yeah,
not as easily accessible as people may think. But what are your thoughts on that?
yeah. I mean, it's an interesting idea. Um, I guess one I would say on Kauai, I don't. I think part of why we're seeing higher cases is we probably don't have a lot of natural immunity compared to a lot of other places because the first and second waves didn't hit us hard. I guess the second part is, well, how often do you check the titers then? I
Yeah.
mean, like, how often? Is there a evidence based periodicity to checking those titers that makes you feel safe? Um, I think that would be difficult, to gauge that. So when is it gonna drop down? And like you said, in my experience, the titers cost more than a vaccination, so that can be another mess that contributes to it. So I think it's an interesting idea, but there's just not a lot of evidence about how safe that approach would be, and we really don't take that approach for any other infectious diseases other than maybe somewhere down the road to verify, for example, a healthcare worker who got hepatitis B vaccine. Hepatitis B is mostly a risk from blood exposure. So, like I got vaccinated when I was 12. Some people, by the time they're working in healthcare and they're 50, maybe the immunity would wane. So we'll test their titer just to see if they're positive. If they're negative, then we're just going to vaccinate them again. So I could see it working from that perspective, but surveillance antibody titers for children doesn't really seem practical.
All right. Here's one that I think is a good question. We spoke of this, and I think the Department of Health, the state has already made it very clear that there is no tracking for boosters. There will be no tracking for boosters. So how do we? I mean, the people that took the vaccines in January or February, with the waning uh, efficiency or the waning vaccine, they're just added into the pot of possibly unvaccinated. I know there's some benefit, the memory T cells and all of that, but generally speaking, as the immunity wanes over time, our vulnerability increases. So is there anything in the works to manage that? I just
I
don't know
mean,
how you could do it. I don't know how
yeah,
you
I
could
I
do it.
don't think that would be like routine population wide. I mean, maybe there would be like a random sampling type approach to try to get a general sense of when the immunity is waning. Same thing. It's partly a resource thing. I mean, like all. I mean, it's hard to get everybody together to get the vaccine, so you'd have to get people together and regularly blood test them for their titers, which is not any easier than doing the vaccines, and that's just sort of for knowledge. So, maybe there would be a randomized trial or something along those lines for monitoring.
All right. Last question, and we'll get into the misinformation because I want to spend some time on that. Again, we've seen this question pop up routinely. Some people are saying we may need a fourth booster. Is this something that's going to continue every 6 months or 8 months? People going to have to get boosted.
I mean, nobody knows, right? But I mean, based on our last booster, the booster, which is a lot, was based on Pfizer data coming out of Israel, showing that the immunity waned after 6 months. Um, I think it's reasonable to think there might be another booster coming down the line. I think that also depends, though, on what's happening globally. How much COVID are we seeing? You know, um, and what are the vaccination rates? So I think it's too early to tell. Um,
Mhm.
if I was like a stock investor type person, I probably would be looking at my guess, unless the nasal vaccines come out, is that we're looking at something like an annual fall COVID booster, like the way that we do flu. And furthermore, I I'm like thinking someone will come up with a flu and COVID, combined vaccine that we would be getting every fall, at least for the next few years until this gets under control. That's just my, I have little to no evidence, other than my guess at how this will play out. But I think it's likely that another booster will be indicated at some point 6 months down the road. I'm not so sure, but probably my guess is within the next year that probably will be another recommendation.
Mm-hmm. You're muted. You're muted, Mel.
As we continue to get information on this virus, still relatively new virus if you think about it. A couple years old. We're still learning. Doc, the misinformation. Today, was it today? I think it was today, or maybe yesterday. It was today. I shared the Garden Island newspapers post about this forum that's coming up on Friday, because I had figured that the way it was written. It was written. Let me just put it up real quick. Uh, COVID vaccine forum, emergency meeting of the world experts to discuss the COVID vaccine rollout in Hawaii. And you got all these doctors: McCullough, Cole, Farella, Urso, Leiden. Anyway, so I shared the post. I didn't say anything. I just shared it. I was hoping to get information on. Then I get some information from our lovely doctor here with some newspaper articles, some articles that some of these guys being investigated by medical boards in their states. Some of these guys are being looked at for some possible criminal violations regarding their profession. So I immediately, after I read and I realized that it was credible articles, I deleted the post. And doctor had a little concern or apprehension about posting this to give these guys more publicity. But the bottom line is this, people, and I'll let Dr. Kapono chime in. This is the Garden Island newspaper. Kauai's Garden Island newspaper is sharing this. And when I just checked their website or their Facebook page, they just reshared it again about 4 hours ago. Um, why they're doing that, I do not know. But these guys are not Dr. Green's buddies, Roxanne. These guys are anti-vaxxers. They're anti-vaxxers, but they're portraying this as, I looked at it as it was the COVID vaccine rollout for our state, but I was mistaken. So I deleted my post. But Doc, this is the battle that we fight every day, the battle of misinformation. And
Yeah,
how do we stop this, man?
I don't like censorship. I mean, free speech is important. So people are free to listen to what these doctors are saying, but I do think that we should be aware of where they're coming from and always check your sources. Mel, I saw you post it and I was kind of like wondering, is he going to comment on this? This doesn't look good. But I thought I might point out, if you could, can you put it back on the screen? And I might point out some things that sort of tip me off that this is something that is suspicious. And so the first thing I would say is I've never heard of any of these doctors. So, I mean, are these doctors in Hawaii? And I believe this Dr. Leiden might be in Kauai, but none of the other ones are. So it's kind of like, an emergency meeting. Why would we have these doctors that have nothing to do with Hawaii have an emergency meeting here? The next thing, if you look at the bottom, Dr. Christopher Leiden, and he's the moderator, and it says chiropractic. I have, there are some chiropractors that do a lot of good for my patients, but I think you always have to be careful when there's a chiropractor talking about COVID. I mean, chiropractors just generally are not going to be dealing with COVID. And there are a lot of chiropractors who are sort of, well, definitely on the fringe of what we would think of as accepted medicine. So I think a lot of people don't understand that, that what we tend to call doctors are MDs, some allopathic medicine, MD behind the name. A smaller subsegment are called DOs, osteopathic doctors, and they're generally, they get trained similarly to MDs, and they work in hospitals just like how, in clinics just like how MDs do. It's a really interesting history how this all happened. But chiropractors, when it was sort of standardized, who are considered doctors, chiropractors were kind of left out for whatever reasons. But I just would say that chiropractors are very variable as far as their qualifications and their viewpoints on medicine, and many MDs and DOs are skeptical of a lot of chiropractors. But I do just want to say it's not like all of them are bad. But when you see a chiropractor talking about COVID, I think you should think be on the lookout. The next part, that you look up, and there's this next doctor, and what is his background? He's an eye doctor, he's an oculoplastic surgeon, and a drug inventor. All right, so I mean that's just not, an eye doctor, an oculoplastic surgeon, that's not very related to COVID. So that's another one to kind of, clue in why would that person be an expert to talk about the COVID and the vaccines. The next doctor, that makes a little bit more sense, says as a specialist in adolescent medicine, internal medicine, and pediatrics. But if you Google that name, that's the group. She was in the frontline doctors, the people who I think went on the White House and made a big kind of grandstanding thing about, I think it was hydroxychloroquine at that time. So, feel free, Google these names. I would say Google the name, put COVID, and just see what comes up. You can judge for yourself about their background. The next one up, pathologist. So a pathologist is someone who looks at the microscope, after we do biopsies. Once again, unlikely that a pathologist is going to be an expert in vaccines or COVID management. And then the one on the top, cardiologist, internist, epidemiologist, that all kind of sounds good. I tried looking up this epidemiologist claim, and I didn't find any evidence to back up that this guy is an epidemiologist. And what I found was lawsuit from Baylor University about COVID misinformation. And basically they were angry that he was using their name to spread misinformation. The one below that is under investigation from the Washington Medical Board for misinformation. So, you can find all this, and to me, it's just not a good source. I wish the Garden Island newspaper wasn't promoting it. Of course, I feel a little bit of I guess paternalism about Kauai. I feel like this is kind of like, my zone, and I feel protective of the people on the island, and it makes me sort of angry to have people like this. I sort of feel like they're like kind of coming on my turf and trying to spread misinformation. So I don't like it. But free speech, and I just want the community to be aware that you should definitely be skeptical of what information is shared on this forum if you choose to join it. And I think it's good to, if you're hearing other people thinking that this is a credible source of information, at least tell them that there's a lot of reason to be skeptical about it.
Well, thank you, Doc, for letting me know almost instantly of some of these guys, and I apologize. I am guilty of not vetting out these people and just hitting the share button without even, which is not like me, but because it came from a source which I somewhat trust in the Garden Island. Now I know I cannot, and I own it. I apologize. It was a mistake, and thank you
But
for.
no shame. I mean, I
pointing
think
that
it's just a great example of how easy it is. I mean, it looks so legit. I mean, unless you have that on your radar, it's really easy to fall prey to these kind of things. And essentially, I think that's what's happening on a global basis right now. But even in our small community, I love that you're calling it the village. But even in our village, you see how it can infiltrate pretty easily.
Well, that
Yeah.
doctor Urso, URSO, the ophthalmologist, that individual, he actually was on the steps of the Congress with that doctor that Murtaza Akhtar called a wackadoodle. You remember when they were promoting hydroxychloroquine? He was there
Right.
with
That's
that
the
group.
same as
Yeah,
the one Farella. I think they're both in part of that group.
yeah. So, but I think you bring up a good point, and that is when an event such as this, I mean, it kind of looks, it is deceiving in a sense if you got to really look at it really good, right? So knowing that if they're going to put this up to be on a, and they're very limited on the information that they want to release of each individual, hoping that no one catches on to what type of event they were associated with prior. I think that in and of itself kind of leads one to question, right? If get involved in that type of thing, if you're gonna be one who would stand upright, eh, let your professionalism speak for itself. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to prime the pump on it, as they say. Just let it happen because your work is going to speak for itself.
Yeah. I mean, and I think true experts in COVID right now are not really looking for venues to be talking more. I mean, I mean, we have to sometimes, but I mean, even
Mhm.
me, I enjoy coming on this show, but it's like, I got stuff to do, like, I mean, I'm not trying to go to like some of these guys are from Texas. I'm not trying to go like to Texas and talk to people about COVID over there. Um,
Yeah.
so, you just have to be kind of cautious about that. I know that some of them I think have been promoting vitamins and other things. So you have to watch about that too. Like what's the background here? Is it, to give misinformation so that there can be profit gained by some other means? And, I would encourage people to, same thing for me. If you're listening to me, you can Google, go find out, and I've heard even like some of my cousins would tell me, you're getting kickbacks from the vaccines, that's why you're promoting it. I understand that skepticism, but I promise you, I am not. I mean, like, we don't get anything for the vaccines, and frankly, the work of doing vaccinations, while it makes me proud, and I'm happy to be able to offer that opportunity, it's not enjoyable. I mean, it's essentially like working through bureaucracy and doing accounting all the time, and meanwhile trying to keep the staff happy, and then making it an enjoyable experience for the you know, for the recipients or the patients. But it's essentially like planning a little party every Saturday, and I'm kind of like,
Mhm.
I'd be happy to be away from it if someone else could just do it and do it well, and connect with people the same way. So
Mhm.
that's kind of my take on the situation. But always check your sources,
Yeah.
and especially when you see people throwing around doctor and then you don't see what the degree is behind their name. That's always suspicious to me. I mean, just like Dr. Phil, I mean, a lot of doctors were like, Dr. Phil, get out of here. Like, stop calling yourself. I mean, I think he's a PhD psychologist, so he's a doctor, but he's not an MD. And even like Dr. Oz, I think he's an MD, but most of us are like, if you practice good medicine, you don't need to be going and promoting yourself personally. Most of the doctors that do that have some sort of commercial enterprise that they're trying to really promote.
Mm.
And we say because good medicine sells itself, right? People will hear and they'll seek you out.
Oh, I just feel like an ass, because
Nah.
but hey, gotta own it. When you screw up like that, you own it and you learn from it. And I can tell you, I learned.
But Mel, I will assure you, there are so many more people out there that should own it, but don't. So, don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up on it.
I
It's
read I read those articles that Dr. Kapono sent me, and I'm thinking, holy crap! This guy went as far as to lie about his affiliation with Baylor University in some of his seminars. And why would
yeah.
you do that? Why can you imagine? Can you imagine, Charlie? I On our show we say Charlie has got a PhD from Baylor University and studies of microbiology and COVID
Well, when I
pandemics. I mean,
when I was in
can
the
you?
police department, I told everybody I had an MD, and they thought I was crazy, and they said, "Are you a doctor?" I said, "No, I was a master of disaster." I said, "You keep on acting out when I arrest you. That's what the MD gonna do. It's gonna kick you in, and I'm gonna be your worst nightmare. So I didn't say I was a doctor, but I was a master of disaster. So, and he said, okay. So it's one of those things. It's how it plays out. But I think what I wanted the people to really latch onto, if they could, is that in most critical times like this, we started off talking about the vaccinations. I think, and I want to commend you, Doc, because both you as well as Scott and his team. I mean, you take where Dr. Akiona is going. It's just two remote areas on a big island. I mean, who would want? She posted last week. She was down in Miloli'i, right? Remote as remote can be. So, and you're doing the same thing too. And I want people to understand that when this whole thing started out, people were actually going to find out where they could get these vaccines. But now they're making these vaccines so readily available by coming out to you. And if you want to take it, if you gotta stand on the street and raise your hand, just yeah, I'll take it. Then do it. Don't be afraid. But like we've always talked every single night, you can lead a horse to water. You cannot make them drink, and you just got to give them time. If they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it. If not, and we have success stories. They come on and they 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 talk about through the show we listen to so and so. That's right, we're gonna do it. Well, I did it, and that's a success story that we can be proud of, and everybody takes credit for that. So we'll hit those stumbling blocks, and hopefully we can overcome those hurdles, right, Doc?
Oh yeah, I think before we end the show, I'd like to run through the vaccination opportunities for the pediatric
Yes.
vaccine. But you reminded me, throughout this pandemic, I connected with Cece Kilma and the Marshallese Association of Kauai, and we ended up thinking we weren't going to go back to. We've been going to Laukona Park, and I always mess up this name. I tend to call it Eisenberg Park, but I realize everyone says Isenberg Park. So Isenberg. So we weren't planning to go back, but sure enough, we were contacted, and the families that we had vaccinated were asking if we were going to come back to help vaccinate age 5 to 11. So we're going back this Saturday. And I'm proud of those connections, especially for communities like that who have been, historically overlooked in a lot of ways.
Oh, you've done good.
We know you're keeping up the fight. I just, I was looking down. I was looking up Christopher Leiden's Facebook profile. He's he got censored or banned by Facebook. And there's a post on there from August about how pissed off he was with Facebook because they banned his comments or most of his posts for misinformation.
Mm.
So yeah, so that's Dr. Leiden. He does live here in Kauai. So feel free to go check him out. His page is still up. But yeah, Doc, you've been doing a good job. Keep up the good work. Any closing comments before we call it a night?
Well, do you mind if I run through the pediatric vaccination opportunities?
No,
Already?
please.
The first thing I would say is for everybody, you got to remember kauai.gov/vaccine. That's where it's going to have all the opportunities for everybody. That's the best source of information. So you can always look there. The Department of Health has started their mobile clinics. So let's see. We're already past the ones for today. I do know KVMH did about 40 vaccines this afternoon in Waimea. So KVMH will be offering another vaccination clinic on December 1st from 2 to 5 p.m. and they do not require an appointment. The Department of Health mobile van will be at Hanapepe Neighborhood Center this Friday, the 19th, from 4 to 6 p.m. Kilauea Neighborhood Center, Saturday the 20th, from 2 to 4 p.m. Kapa'a Neighborhood Center, Monday the 22nd, from 4 to 6 p.m. And no appointment needed. Those are all only pediatric vaccinations at those. Our clinics this Saturday, every Saturday, our clinics are from 9 to 11 a.m. So this Saturday we'll be at Kekaha Neighborhood Center and Isenberg Park. We do all the vaccines, so pediatric and all the adult vaccines, boosters, whichever ones you like, you can get them at our clinics. And no appointment necessary. We appreciate if you call us ahead of time just so we can get a better head count at our hotline, which is 338-0938. Or sorry, I think I messed that up now, our own one. Sorry, 938-0938, I believe. Let me make sure I got that right. I'm going to kauai.gov/vaccine. So the next one, December 4th, Kanui Kapono Charter School in Anahola, and at our Waimea clinic at KVMH, same thing, 9 to 11. And then we have
Doc,
the 11th.
what's the phone number? You get the correct phone number?
Sorry, I want to make sure I get this right. I haven't said it for such a long time now. I believe it's 938-0938.
Okay, I just posted it, guys. Take a screenshot. www.kauai.gov/vaccine. That's the best place.
Sorry, 938-0938. I'm so used to 338-337, those Kauai numbers. I'm sorry, everybody.
I think I got them right. 938-0938.
Right. And any of our clinic numbers too, if any of you guys know them. So any Ho'ola number, you will eventually get it to the people that need to get the information. But no appointment is needed. So if you have any problems reaching us, just show up. Okay, so the 4th, we went through that. The December 11th, we'll be back at Kekaha Neighborhood Center and Isenberg Park. The 18th of December, we'll be back at our Kapa'a and our Waimea clinics. So Waimea clinic is within KVMH, and then our Kapa'a clinic is behind Mahilona Hospital.
Mhm.
In Lihue, there are a lot more opportunities, but all of these require an appointment. Wilcox, their next one will be Tuesday, the 23rd, November 23rd, from 5 to 7 p.m. You can go to wilcoxhealth.org/vaccine. Longs in Kukui Grove does it 7 days a week. Once again, an appointment is required. cvs.com/vaccine. Their hours during weekdays are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday is 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday is 10 to 5 p.m. And then Kaiser Permanente, my friend Dr. Kapua Maderas, Anahola Girl. She'll be over there doing vaccinations Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. Appointment is optional. You can walk in over there as well. And that's kp.org. They just close for lunch from noon to 1 p.m.
Thanks, Doc. I saw on the news that you don't have to be a Kaiser member to get your vaccines from Kaiser. I saw that on the news, which I thought was quite interesting. So,
Mhm.
Right.
awesome. Well, there you go, guys. I just saw Marion Malitin. Your grandkids need to be vaccinated. Find the phone number in my post, in one of my comments, and call and set it up. Get it done, guys. Get it done. Stomp
yeah.
out.
Come to Kikaha. We'll see you Saturday.
That's right. That's right. Charles.
Yes. Well, it's been an eventful night. Thank you very, very much. I'm sort of here relaxing. I always find it a pleasure to listen to my good friend Kapono Chong-Hanssen since day one, since meeting him till now. He's also an excellent soccer coach. Let's not forget about that. But when folks, when Mel gets a guest on, whoever the guest may be, or I get somebody on, it's with the intent that they can share the best information possible. Because all we ask you to do is listen, and you be the judge. You be the judge. And so far, we have not been disappointed by the people we brought on, and we'll continue to bring people on that can help us through these trying times. Because we were hoping by now everything would subside, but because some people could not play in the sandbox together, they went outside of the sandbox and got infected and continually kept this virus alive. And there was a lot of people, not only a few, but a lot. So we just got to buckle down, do what is right, and so we can return to life as how it was before. But we all have to realize as well that there are new norms in place, and we just can't fight it. But we got to do the best that we can. So with that said, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'll turn this back over to Mel and our special guest, Dr. Kapono Chong-Hanssen.
All right, guys. The village. Hashtag stay safe. Hashtag share aloha. I explained earlier, Charlie, that we went back down to Monday, Wednesday, Friday because when we our last show we ran out of stuff to talk about. We had a mochi crunch eating contest.
and I
That's
won.
what we had. Yeah, you won. So I'm pissed off. So we're just canceling the show. We just go Monday, Wednesday, Friday now. It means we get too much time on our hands when we got to go mochi crunch eating contest. Come on. I also talked about wanting to go back to the Feel Good Friday format as much as we can.
Hmm.
I every morning I was doing some Hawaiian music on my Facebook Live. I had a few warning messages from Facebook saying, "Hey, that's copyright material. Hey, that's copyright material." So I'm not going to do it as often because I don't like to take away my Facebook account. That would be disaster. So just bear with me, guys. We're going to do them here and there so I don't get booted.
Well,
But that is the
you know,
reason why.
I want to share with you one thing that I think Facebook really need. You know, when you have the opportunity when you go onto that site where you can order the music and you pay for it online. Okay,
Mhm,
so basically you pay for some of the copyright materials because you're gonna be reproducing that sound, right? You pay for it
mhm.
and you use it. They gotta really think twice how they're going to stop you from that because you already went through the formalities.
Yeah, the problem is I use YouTube. I'm sharing a YouTube video because get the nice
Yeah.
background and that's the problem. And those guys had steal the music for put them on their video, and I'm sharing their copyright violated video. So, uh, I think someone just told me though, if I post on the post, I do not have the rights to this music, then it makes it okay. So, I'm gonna try that tomorrow morning. But anyway. So anyway, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I don't like go Facebook jail. Can you imagine if we go Facebook jail, Charlie?
But
That's not
brother, you,
good,
you put
man.
that on, it says, I do not own the rights, and you still end up in Facebook jail. I mean, what gonna happen then? We stuck. We stuck.
I don't own here, right here. Laurel said, just post. I don't own the copyright to this music. Thank you. So see, there's always a way around it. Always, because I really enjoy doing that, and I think the people really love it, especially our friends, our villagers that are away from Hawaii right now, living on the mainland, and they just enjoy the local music and the scenery. So anyway,
Mhm.
Doc, thank you so much. Thank you,
Yep.
thank you, thank you. You're just like one of the heroes, guys. You one of the heroes, Doc, and we just appreciate you so much. And for those of us in the village that strive to get good good quality information, we just want to thank you for providing that.
Mhm.
And keep up what you're doing. And one day that concert is going to be killer, man. Charlie's concert when this is all done. He keeps thinking I forget, but I don't forget. That is my light at the end of my tunnel. Is that concert? So,
No, you
um,
forget one thing. You forget that I still don't know what you're talking about.
and you forget that Auntie Steph said it's on. So I really don't care what you say,
Hey,
Charlie, because
Yeah.
Stephanie said it's
hey,
on.
remember one thing.
Mel knows who's the boss. Mel
Hey,
knows who's
I
the
wear I wear a pants in a family when she says I can wear a pants in a family. Okay, so let's get that straight.
Yeah, like me, I wear the pants in my family. Just Patsy tells me which one. That's all. Charlie's concert. There we go. Charlie's concert. Hey, Village, we love you guys. Take care. Stay safe. We'll see you guys on Friday night, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, take
Oh,
care now.
I gotta find the right. I gotta find the right button. All right, guys. Take care. Love you guys.
boss.
I'll